Welcome to Beat Diabetes. I am Dennis, known as Den, and who in the world are you?
I'm Benedicta Pollock.
Known as
Ben.
Den and Ben here. So, people have asked me many times, I've lost count of how many times they've asked me, when are you going to make a recipe book and put out a book of recipes?
Okay, now.
And the answer is never.
Never.
This video will show everybody exactly why.
Okay.
I'll never make a book of recipe. I'll never make a book about recipes or anything like that. The reason is we did a very unusual week. We're going to do 7 total diabetes busting recipes. But they're going to be very, very simple.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll never make a recipe book, because if I ever did, the recipes would be so simple, about 1 or 2 ingredients.
Yeah.
Everybody'd want their money back. They'd be going like, Dennis, you mean I paid $15.95 for this?
For this?
You're telling me to eat hamburger patties and green beans? Are you kidding me? So of course, I'm just not going to be the guy to make recipes. When I first got started, I was looking at some of the low-carb recipes.
Yeah.
And one recipe I saw was for a meal that included cleaned squid. Clean squid, mind you. You ever eaten clean squid?
No.
What
is it?
Well, squid is sort of like an ocean animal, sort of a cousin to the octopus. And apparently you can buy them at stores. I don't know. I didn't even know where I could get dirty squid, let alone clean squid. So I thought, but that was the problem. Well, a lot of these recipes are so fancy and complex and so many ingredients, and you've got to go to the store or order 8, 10, 12 different ingredients to make one meal, and then you make it and you find out you don't like it, and you've got all these ingredients lying around on your shelves for the next year. So that's just not me. I am a simple guy, and my recipes are simple but powerful.
Yeah.
And first of all, we need to tell the rules of our week. We've had almost a complete week. We're actually cutting it short by 1 day in terms of reporting to you, but we will go ahead and finish it tomorrow. We're recording this on a Friday. We started on Sunday, and the number one rule, according to Barney Fife, is obey all rules. So our number one rule in this challenge to us was we have to obey all rules. What were the rules? Well, number one, we didn't eat any breakfast except for bulletproof coffee.
Yeah.
Put some butter and cream in our coffee. That was it. No breakfast apart from that. So that was the number one. We've done it all week long.
Yep.
Never had a breakfast. Number 2 rule is we had the same meal for lunch as we do for supper, or dinner, if you prefer to call it that.
Yeah.
So this makes a total of 7 meals, time we get our 7 days in. And we're eating the same thing for lunch and dinner, and then we move to the next day, we have a different meal for lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Another rule is we tested our blood sugar an hour and 15 minutes after eating one of the meals. I didn't want to make it too complicated or hard on us, so we could have done a pre-meal test, a post-meal test, a 2-hour test, a 3-hour test, and then done it for both meals. And it's like, no, way too much. I don't want to spend that money. I don't want to poke myself that many times.
Yeah.
So I made it easy on you.
Thank you very much.
I made it easy on moi.
I appreciate that.
And so we just did one test for a whole day, and that was hour and 15 minutes after eating.
Yeah.
We didn't even bother with the pre-meal. I can guess what our pre-meal would have been around, which would be around the 100 mark, 98, 102, 95, 104, somewhere around 100. Yeah. But I was mostly concerned with the peak. How far would we go before we start dropping back down? How high would we go? And by my estimation, somewhere between an hour to an hour and 15 minutes is a pretty good place to test. And I'm talking about after you finish your last bite.
Yeah.
Not when you start, but after you finish. You eat your meal. After you finish, you set your timer. Boom. 1 hour, 15 minutes. So we did one test per day.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about these meals now.
Okay.
First of all, how was it to eat the Dennis Pollock low-carb recipes for these 6 days that we've been doing it. Was it painful? Was it misery? Was it agony? Or was it marvelous and wonderful and pleasant?
Well, it was painful.
Not like soup and fufu. I asked.
And at the same time, mind-blowing and wonderful. And yeah, so far as it didn't hurt my blood sugar, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I asked her one time when she said, yeah, this is good. And I said, is it as good as soup and fufu? And you said,
nope.
Nope, it wasn't that good, but it was good, according to her.
Yeah.
So, most of these meals were 2 ingredients.
Yeah.
Now, we did have salads a couple of days, and so the salads have different vegetables in them, so technically that wouldn't be 2. But most of them were 2 ingredients. Sunday, this last Sunday, we went and bought a rotisserie chicken. And the thing about baked chicken or rotisserie chicken, I don't know of any place you can't find that.
Yeah.
Nigeria, I remember going to, where was it? Well, I was in one of the, what we used to call third world countries, and I got that kind of chicken. I mean, I don't think there's any place.
Yeah, it was East Africa we went to where we were buying it on the road.
Yeah, Kenya and Tanzania, sure. Yeah. So we had rotisserie chicken, bought it at Walmart, and I checked the ingredients. It says 0 carbs for a serving of that. So, I mean, no carbs. Now, if I had bought fried chicken, that would have been a different story.
Okay.
But this was rotisserie. The fried chicken would have that bread coating on it.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't drive my blood sugar too high, but it's still extra carbs I didn't want to do. So these are like the perfect diabetes busting meals.
Yeah.
And we're going to prove that by the results we got. Chicken and salad. The salad had a lot of ingredients, and we jazzed it up a little bit and put some peanuts on it, put some shredded cheese, and even some pieces of a single strawberry.
Right.
You may have thrown in some blueberries. I don't know. You kind of like those blueberries? No?
No, I didn't put blueberries.
All right. So 1 hour, 15 minutes after we finished this meal, what did you score on the glucose meter?
I scored 99.
99. Well, that's pretty good for a peak. I mean, if you wake up with a 99, maybe not quite so good, which is exactly what you did today, by the way. But for a peak after you've eaten a meal, I mean, that's where your blood sugar is supposed to shoot up, and you ended up with a 99. I ended up with a 102. You beat me a little bit.
Yep.
This girl's very competitive, and the honest truth is I am too. We're both competitive. So when we do these tests, we're like trying to see who's going to win. Of course,
competition right
she's got an advantage over me because she's quite a bit younger than me. Plus, she's never really been diabetic and never been diagnosed diabetic. So, you know, she's definitely got an advantage. Anyway, we weren't far apart, 99 and 102. Monday, what did we eat on Monday?
Monday, we ate burger patty and green beans.
Yeah, hamburger patty, not the buns, just the patty. Green beans, and you wanted a big one. I remember I said, well, why don't we cut a pound into thirds? We'll each have a 1/3 pound patty. You said, oh, let's cut it into half and have a little more. So we did. We had a 1/2 pound patty. That's a lot of meat, a lot of hamburger.
Yep.
And then green beans, we had pretty good size helping of green beans.
Yeah.
You scored what? An hour and 15 minutes after finishing?
100.
100. I scored a 103. So you beat me 2 days running.
Oh.
That was depressing. But you did. But not by much. It's not like you were way ahead where I have to look way into the distance to see where Benedicta is.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we went to fish. So we've tried chicken Sunday, Monday, beef, burger, hamburger. Tuesday, tilapia, fish, and an avocado. That avocado was good.
It was good.
I like avocado. My
it.
mom never served them when I was a kid, but boy, since I've grown up, I've come to love them.
Yep.
So tilapia, fish, and avocado, and you scored a very good score. What did you score?
90.
A 90, almost in the 80s. Your body liked that fish and avocado, didn't it? Mine apparently did too. In fact, kind of a funny thing because I tested my blood sugar first. Well, we'd been in the 100s or close to it each time. So when I saw I got a 96, which is what I got after that tilapia and avocado, I was sure I was going to beat you.
I know.
In fact, I said, beat that.
Yeah, you said that, beat that. I'm like, I was afraid. I'm like, no, how do I beat that? How do I beat that? Lord help me.
Fear and trembling.
Fear and trembling. It was all over the place. I'm like, no.
And then you got a 90.
I was like, yes, beat that.
The cheering, the laughter, the joy. I mean, the exuberance. Once you got that 90,
I was all over the place.
You whipped me thoroughly on that one.
Yep.
And you were thrilled. All right, Wednesday, we had pork chops and cauliflower. Cooked the cauliflower, and then we made some sauce, cheese sauce. Had some butter, some cheese, some cream in it.
Yeah.
Poured it over the cauliflower. It should be a pretty low-carb meal again. But you didn't do quite as good this time. What did you score on Wednesday with the pork chops and cauliflower?
103.
103. And I scored a 92. I whipped you thoroughly on that one.
Yeah, mine was depressing.
92 I scored. You scored 103, so I beat you by 11. I couldn't quite understand why you did go as high as you did, but you did. So anyway, some things are inexplicable. Thursday, we had it was like a thin-shaved beef. I think it was called Milano beef. And you cooked it up. It wasn't quite as filling as the hamburger, but it was good. And then we had a chaffle. So Thursday was our chaffle day. It was our carnivore day.
Yeah.
Because a chaffle, and the way we fixed it, I didn't put any grain in it. This is a no grains week for us. So no almond flour even, no coconut flour, no soy flour, no flour at all. So we made the chaffles especially clean with just a couple of eggs and a bunch of shredded cheese and a little bit of baking powder.
Right.
And we put some cream cheese on the chaffles, but that's also, it's a form of cheese, so it's an animal product. These are all animal products. So on Thursday, with the beef and the chaffle, you scored?
92.
And I scored 93. You beat me, but not by much. It was, pretty much a dead heat on the beef and the chaffle.
Yeah.
Now, you would have expected we'd have done pretty well, but because there's no carbs really to speak of.
Yeah.
All right, Friday. Oh, that's today, by the way. And this was the day I enjoyed the most in terms of the meal. Steak, New York strip steak. What could be better? I spent quite a bit of money on that. I could justify it by saying to myself, well, this is for beat diabetes, So if I want to pig out on something, if I can find a way to make it for beat diabetes, then it's like, okay, I can justify spending the money. Normally, that was a lot of money. Steaks are getting so expensive. Steak and a salad. So we had a salad similar to what we had on Sunday with vegetables and a little bit of strawberry and some peanuts and some shredded cheese. You scored what today?
I don't know what happened, but my body didn't handle it very well either. It was 102.
102. That's really nothing to apologize for.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this is your peak. This is when a lot of people are hitting 180, 200, 250.
Oh, okay.
They're jumping way out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because this is where your blood sugar should be the highest.
Okay.
This is where you ought to be, way up there. And 102 is a pretty scrawny.
So I shouldn't complain?
You shouldn't complain too much. I scored a 98, better still.
Yeah.
And, one thing I got curious about was, I wonder if this is affecting my fasting blood sugar. Because I would think, as clean as we were eating, and as low carb as we were eating, and we had no real keto products, no keto bars. Sometimes I'll eat, in fact, most days I'll have a half of a keto bar with some coffee after lunch. No keto bread, basically just pure food. And so I thought, well, that probably will be helping with my fasting blood sugar.
Yeah.
I scored an 89 this morning when I woke up, and you scored a
99.
99, so you were a bit higher.
I don't know. Yeah.
Now, based on, and I haven't figured it all out, I'll probably report later about this, but based on these being our peak, these being what should be the highest points of our blood sugar during the day.
Yeah.
And we're hitting right around 100, sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little over, but right around 100.
Yeah.
As a peak. This is where it ought to be the highest.
Yeah.
Which means when we slept, it was probably lower than that.
Yeah.
I
can't complain.
I would guess that if we ate like this all the time,
that would be so good.
I would guess that we would end up with an A1C of 4.8, 4.7, 4.9, somewhere in the upper fours, I'm guessing. Because our blood sugar would normally go lower than that as we slept and sometimes during the day. These numbers we're giving you are the worst. I mean, they're the highest, but they're all right around 100.
Yeah.
So basically what we've given you, and I'll report back on how we did on tomorrow. We've got salmon and broccoli scheduled.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that. Salmon and broccoli is going to be our meal. Again, a Dennis Pollock simple meal.
Yeah.
There's not 5 ingredients. There's not 4. There's not 3. There's just salmon and broccoli. Anyway, these 7 meals could help you to beat diabetes, almost anybody.
Yeah.
Any type 2 diabetic that could eat these meals, and you can just go Sunday through Saturday, eat these meals, repeat cycle the next week, the next week, the next week, and so forth. I don't think you could stay diabetic unless you've got a really serious case of it that is very, very stubborn. I mean, even people with an A1C in 12, 13, 14, I think in 6 months to 8 months' time, eating like this every week, you'd beat diabetes.
Yeah.
Would it be worth it?
It will be worth it because these are not, you may call it common food, but they are so good, and this will enrich your body, and is not going to, bring out the worst part of diabetes in your life, and you can still, be filled with it, and it's not ordinary food, this is not ordinary food. This is expensive food.
Well, price-wise, it's a little expensive, and there's ways to cheapen that and get cheaper meats and so forth. Don't get the New York strip steaks for sure. But when you think about the price you pay for diabetes, which is your eyesight failing you, your kidneys going bad, your circulation becoming terrible to the point where you may need amputation, inflammation, arthritis, UTIs, impotence, all kinds of health issues, this would be a small price to pay. Now, there's a whole lot more than this. It's not like these are the 7 magic meals. You could substitute any meal, any meat for any of these meats. And there's a lot of vegetables you could substitute. But meals like these, not necessarily these exact meals, although if you're so desperate for someone to put recipes in your hand, you can do these exact meals. We'll put it in the description. But meals like these, and just do it for a week, and then another week, and then another week. Do it for 6 months. I dare you, I challenge you to eat like this for 6 months. I don't think most of you can stay diabetic, not by the numbers, not by your A1C, not by your fasting glucose. And what a blessing it is to not be diabetic. Now, what we saw with our scores is a non-diabetic versus someone who has diabetic tendencies. I'll put it that way. I don't call myself a diabetic because if I went to a doctor and I said, Doc, I think I'm diabetic, and he said, well, let's test your A1C, and he said, well, you got a 4.8. Are you kidding me? What are you, crazy? You couldn't possibly be diabetic. I said, well, test my fasting glucose. He says, well, you got a 92. Are you crazy? That's not even close to diabetes. But I know what I'm like, and I know where I could be, just following my mom into the world of amputations and strokes and heart attacks and premature death. I don't want that. I'll pay this price. And there's lots more foods that can work. But here is a perfect sample to get you started. Try these meals for a week. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you wouldn't feel better and see some results in a simple week's time. But give it 6 months' time. I think it would work. On my Bible channel, we're now offering audio podcasts of the Bible studies Ben and I have in the mornings. An audio podcast means there's no video to watch, and that means you can listen to it while you're doing other things. If you're out and about, you can play it through your car stereo while driving. You can listen through earphones while you walk or exercise at the gym. And if you're at home and going to be in the same room for a while, you can simply put your phone on speaker Or you could buy an inexpensive Bluetooth radio and pair it with your phone, or do the same thing with a Bluetooth speaker. So welcome to our home as you drop in on Ben and me as we study the Bible together.